We're going to call this meeting to order. Could everyone please stand for a pledge of allegiance and a prayer, please? Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, we come to you tonight humbly and to the throne room of grace and just pray, Father, a blessing over those in Puerto Rico as they're just going through a travesty with the hurricane. And I pray, Father, that it will be a blessing upon us this evening and that we remember that the words of our mouth and the meditation of our heart always be acceptable in your sight. In Christ's name I ask this, amen.
Amen.
I want to say about the prayer, I want to be respectful of all religions. And if there are anyone that have any other religion than Christianity or any other religion, please feel free to let me know and you can pray your prayer as well. Next on the agenda, we have the termination of quorum. Looks like we have a quorum. Comments of council members, special recognition resolutions.
Mr. President?
Council Freeman?
Okay. Maybe we can ask Republic if the city can put 5% of the recycling profits and 5% of the trash, put it in a fund for the Parks Department for the flowers and trees and mulch. And maybe have them advertise every 6 months, like if they are picking up heavy trash pickup on a certain day, so that everyone knows, and have an anti-litter campaign also. And the other one here, have we been successful in getting funds from Indianapolis up for our parks? And do we have?
Can I answer that?
Okay.
Sure.
This is an odd request that I've actually spent quite a bit of time researching on how or why that request came. Quite a while ago, Indianapolis, as you mentioned, Councilor Freeman, underwent Unigov, which essentially merged the excluded cities of Lawrence, Speedway, Southport, and Beech Grove into one Marion County under Unigov. However, those cities remained their autonomy. They each kept their mayors, kept their councils, kept their police departments, and so on and so forth. Prior to Unigov, Lawrence, Speedway, Southport, and so on, were all in Marion County. Each had their own parks. Lawrence had its own parks. Now, back then, we didn't have OYO and didn't have Lee Road Park, but we did have our own parks in the city of Lawrence. City of Lawrence, as did the city of Southport, as did Speedway, and as did Beech Grove, all paid for their own parks. Nothing to do with Indianapolis. When Unigov took place, essentially all of Marion County became a part of Indianapolis. But the excluded cities were excluded from being a part of the COIT and LOIT funding, and it was redistributed and so on and so forth. But I couldn't find any place in there where it indicated that after Unigov, that some of the funds that Indianapolis was collecting for its Indy parks would be redistributed to the city of Lawrence or Beech Grove or Southport's park. I did find one example during the HUDNet administration, believe it or not. This is back during the Pan Am Games. When HUDNet did give an award of money to the city of Lawrence, I could not find that it came from the Indy Parks, but there was an award of money to help build the community center. The community center, I'm guessing, I don't have any factual support of this, but the community center, I'm guessing, was used during the Pan Am Games as a dining hall. So as compensation for the city of Lawrence and Community Park at that time, being essentially adding on, it was just a shelter house at that time. Those of you who are old enough, like I am, can remember it was a big dance hall every Wednesday night, and they were in a concession stand. But they essentially encased that into make it a building, and then I believe, then my assumption, and I want to make sure that I say my assumption is, that became a dining hall during the Pan Am Games and then became a part of the city of Lawrence with that grant of money. Now, I've heard, believe it or not, I've heard about this idea of Indianapolis contributing towards Lawrence parks. There are two issues with that. Number one is that Lawrence has our own park systems. Indianapolis has its own park systems within Lawrence Township. Indianapolis residents can use Lawrence parks. Lawrence residents can use Indianapolis parks. There's no way to determine how much use is going on in both ways. I can tell you that there is an additional premium charged to baseball, football players who don't reside in the city of Lawrence. Not very much, but it is an additional amount to say for those who are playing or using our parks who don't live in the city of Lawrence. So that's one way of compensation in that way. But I can't find any, and I actually found a letter written by the previous administration to the previous mayor requesting some additional funding for Lawrence parks. Quite frankly, it was not greeted with much seriousness because there didn't seem to be any really backing as to why Indianapolis should be contributing to Indianapolis, to Lawrence parks in there, because we are an excluded city. Now, excluded cities, I got to remind you, they're an odd entity, and so we have different rules than other cities in the state of Indiana. And so we are treated, and oftentimes those rules are interpreted to essentially explain how an excluded city can operate. And to the best of my knowledge, there's no empirical evidence to support that Indianapolis should be held responsible to help fund Lawrence parks. Now, recognizing that our parks need to be funded well, it's one of the reasons why, if you notice in the proposed budget, we increased funding for parks, and we intend to keep doing that in the near future. But I can't, in good faith, tell you that we should expect any kind of help from Indianapolis for Lawrence parks in there. Okay? I hope that answers it for you. I took a lot of time researching, trying to find information.
Thank you.
And that's the best I could do.
That's good.
Any other counselor? Counselor Surratt?
Thank you. Just want to, I don't know who was responsible for it, but the parking lot and the exterior of the government building looks tremendous. It's a great visual for people that come into our city, that come into our government building, that are met with clean lines and paved. The cracks are all fixed and the sidewalk is done and ADA compliant, so great job, whoever.
Mr. President.
Counselor Jones?
Two things. I had a constituent that had some problems with some DPW issues, and I called Mr. Anthony. He got with me right away. We met on several occasions, and I just wanted to give kudos to Mr. Anthony. It was great to work with, and he got with me, so I appreciate that. And then on the way here, I had someone call me and tell me that when they went to the city website, the council meeting, on the calendar, the council meetings were not up. So I have not looked personally, but that's something that we may need to look into if they are not up. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
Mr. President,
Counselor?
if be possible, something that came to my attention,
Counselor Wells,
I'm sorry,
if you and Counselor Giles would switch name tags.
Oh, is it?
Okay.
hey, there we go.
This little icebreaker.
Now I
Go ahead.
know who I am. At any rate, at 6 o'clock this evening, I noticed an animal control vehicle. And I was just curious, is that normal time that the animal control people would be operating? Is this late in the evening, or the animal control truck went through the Arby's parking lot like 2 or 3 times? And I was just curious, what are the hours for animal control? Could someone from the police maybe tell me that?
We have a full-time animal control officer that's here Monday through Friday, and then we also have a part-time officer that's here in the evenings, up until 10 o'clock, 6 to 10.
Till 10? What happens if he would happen to capture a stray dog or cat, say, now? What happens then?
Indianapolis is still open.
Till how late?
I don't know their hours for sure, but I believe they're a 24-hour operation.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. I'll look into that tomorrow. Thank you.
Any other counselor? All right. Signing of vouchers, approval of claims, and authorization of payment. There's a motion on the floor for the signing of the vouchers.
Make the motion.
Counselor Freeman? Second?
Bless you.
Was that a second or no?
That was a sneeze, sorry. Excuse me.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, so it was, huh? Counselor Weeder, any discussion? All in favor, by a show of hands, pay the bills? Any opposed? Unanimous. Report of committees. Code, I understand that lack of quorum.
Yes, that's rescheduled for our next regular scheduled meeting, which will be September 28th, which is a Thursday.
September 28th. So what time? 6 PM?
6 p.m.
Okay. And that was the only thing in?
Correct.
All right. All right. Finance.
Yeah, Mr. President, we had a finance meeting, excuse me, we had a finance meeting last week, last Wednesday, I believe to be exact, and we discussed some of the following proposals related to the budget. Proposal number 15, the appropriation and tax rates for 2018, the the committee did vote to approve that, to recommend approval to full council. Proposal number 16 was fixing of the salaries of appointed officers and employees of the city of Lawrence, was also the motion was also approved to recommend that to the approval for that proposal to full council as well. Proposal number 17, fixing the salaries of employees of the police and fire department, was also recommended by council, by the committee to full council. And proposal 18, amending the municipal code of the city of Lawrence regarding employee benefits and overtime, was also recommended for approval to full council as well. And 19, transferring those unused funds and encumbered tax levy funds from the general fund into a trust, is what proposal 19 is, was also approved, was a motion for approval for recommendation to full council as well.
All right. Next, we go to unfinished business. Proposal number 14, 2017, which is going back to code,
September 28th, yes, sir.
September 28th, 6 o'clock p.m. All right. Proposal number 15, 2017. Okay. So we have to have a public hearing prior to this proposal number 15. So the public hearing is scheduled for October 2nd, I believe.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Councilor Wheeler,
could you please repeat that date?
October 2nd.
Second, thank you.
October is the first of the month council meeting,
Thank you.
prior to the meeting. Yep. Just give me a second, I'm catching up with my notes here. All right, next we have proposal number 16, 2017.
Proposal number 16, 2017, introduced by Councilor Giles, a proposal for an ordinance fixing salaries of appointed officers and employees of the city of Lawrence, Indiana for the year 2018.
Is there a motion on the floor for proposal number 16?
Motion.
Motion, Councilor Chavis. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilor Giles. Any discussion?
Could you just clarify something for me?
Councilor Chevrolet?
Proposal 16, this is the proposal that came out of finance with a due pass? I just want to. And so.
Yes.
Okay.
So you need some elaboration on it or
No,
something?
I'm just, you framed us under new business.
No, it's under unfinished business.
Okay. I misheard you then. I thought you said new business.
So are we good to go on that? Any further discussion? Okay,
We still, excuse me, we're
Somewhere
on
else?
16.
we're on number 16, sir.
I had a quick question for possible, and I'm sure it's probably a dumb question, but what I'd like to ask, if I could, of the controller. Where it says here, salary exempt employees, would my understanding be correct that salary exempt employees is just a fixed base salary and there is no additional compensation, financial compensation or monetary compensation other than just a fixed salary? Would that be correct?
It is a fixed salary. Those positions are not eligible to earn overtime.
All of them?
Correct.
Okay, and there's no other compensation as far as showing up for a meeting or just no other reason, no other?
No, this ordinance or this proposal, but the ordinance that has been on the books of the city for some time does allow for, there's education pay for exempt positions, but other than that, no, those positions do not get, per meeting, per diem, or what have you.
Okay, all right, that answers it, thank you.
Any other counselor? Discussion? All right, those in favor of proposal number 16 by a show of hands. Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. Proposal number 17.
Proposal number 17, 2017, introduced by Counselor Giles, a proposal for an ordinance fixing salaries of appointed officers and employees of the Police Department and the Fire Department for the year 2018.
There a motion on the floor for proposal number 17.
Motion?
Motion, Counselor Chevlot. Second.
I'll second it.
Second, Counselor Giles. Any discussion?
I got a question, Mr. President.
Counselor Jones.
Mr. Fenwick, if I can use you again, I'm sorry. On page number 3, under section 2, it's referring to the firemen. It has a date of after January 1st of 1990. When I read both these contracts, they look to be identical. But then when I go to section 3 on the police side, there is no date mentioned.
I may actually ask, I think the answer to this, but I'm not 100% positive, is that was the date we had a full-time fire department, which is why that date is in section 2. Does that ring a bell with fire department?
It's the date we want from civilian birth to.
State per.
State. Yeah, statement.
Okay, but in section 3, when it refers to the police, there is no date. So should the date be added into section 3, or does it matter, or, I mean, that's
I
something
didn't
that,
think it was applicable to the police department, but I don't know the answer to that, so I don't know anyone else. I'll have to find that out, but I don't know the answer to it.
because I could see it being something that could be big. I mean, it's 27 years is what we're looking at.
All I can say is sections 2 and 3 have not been changed. Those have been in this ordinance, at least as far as I know.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, so is that, so we have come to a conclusion on fixing the issue? And that's what we need. We need,
Mr. President?
Counselor Jones.
Could I ask for an amendment in section 3 and add that date?
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was looking for, right?
I would rather us not vote on this and we find out what the date means first, because I don't know if it really has an issue, but I think we should find out what the date is first before we do any other changes.
So if we can retract the motion,
I withdraw my motion.
you withdraw the motion, and what we can do is reassign this back to finance.
Which section was that in again?
Page 3, section 3, and also 2. 2 has a date, section 3 does not.
All right.
Do we need to vote on the motion to withdraw?
Proposal number 18, 2017.
Proposal number 18, 2017, introduced by Counselor Giles, a proposal for an ordinance amending the municipal code of the City of Lawrence, Indiana regarding employee benefits and overtime.
Is there a motion on the floor for proposal number 18?
Mr. President?
Mr. Giles?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion for, for approval for proposal number 18.
There's a motion on the floor for approval by Counselor Giles. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a second by Counselor Chavis. Any discussion?
Yes.
Counselor Giles?
Actually, I'm going to go
I
ahead.
was gonna
and let
ask the same
Tom- Go ahead and let Tom get started.
Well, at our finance committee meeting, there were a couple of questions with respect to this, and it was a detail. And I recall that there was conversation that we were going to look into this, and the chairman was going to speak with the controller to clear up any confusion about that. So my question was, because this is not in an amended version, so my question was that conversation had, and could we get some clarification about, I think it had to do with 72 hours of time that wouldn't be rolled over or something to that effect.
Okay. You know, actually, with that question, I'll bring the controller up to talk about that one. The issue me and him talked about extensively, well, Jason, go ahead and answer that question, then I can go into the other piece of it that we did talk about prior to.
Can you clarify the question?
I'll try to paraphrase, but my fellow counselors, two of them, one of them spoke specifically about it, so he could probably speak better, but it had to do with a PTO time that was carried forward, so on attendance. And so there was a question that if you had perfect attendance, that
Perfect attendance.
it changes from what the existing ordinance or the existing policy is, where that it would perhaps lose 3 days. And I was a little unclear about it, and so there was a lot of back and forth in the finance committee, so I was looking to see if there was an amendment done or any language change on that. So I was unclear, but
I'm going to ask Mr. Johnson
Okay.
to speak to that. There has been a change to that, but I'm going to let him speak to that.
okay.
That's what you're referring to, Councilor Chevrolet, is the personal time that employees accrue. Currently, if they go a month without using sick time, so it's not necessarily perfect attendance, they can still use vacation time,
Okay.
comp time, personal time, that sort of thing. So what we've just done is, under Proposal 18, is just, employees that have personal time currently continue to utilize that personal time, but no more personal time will be accrued or accumulated after January 1st, 2018.
Okay.
I would like to,
Counselor Chavis?
I'd like to make a motion that we reassign this to the Finance Committee. There are so many gray areas and areas of concern. I guess if we can get them addressed here and everybody feels comfortable, that's fine, but I'm just not sure if it needs to be hashed out in a separate meeting.
Okay, Counselor Chavis put a motion on the floor to go back to finance. So this is what I would say, is that this ordinance, since we're in discussion, This ordinance, let me say this, as a former employee of the city, there are no other incentives really for a employee with 20-plus years on this, that serve in this city. And a lot of our employees, they stay here because they really care about our city. And I think that the only thing that they have is to walk away with some kind of financial gain, if you will, upon their retirement. So I think that the way that the ordinance is currently written, it gives the supervisor the authority to manage their employee or their subordinate's time. Me personally, I don't see any reason why we should mess with the ordinance one way or another. And that's my personal opinion.
I'd second that.
And so I think we need to just go, the motion is on the floor for it to go back to finance.
Well, there was a motion before that for approval.
We gotta-
And so, since we're in
Hold
discussion.
on, slow your roll. Hold on. Okay, go ahead, Councilor Giles.
Well, I'm just saying there's a motion for approval, and since we're in discussion, I think that this is a great time to put the facts on the table. I understand that there's some emotional ties related to that, but I think that when people hear some of the facts of the financial issues that the city has because of these liabilities, I think that that might shine some light on this issue. So I'd like to invite Mr. Fenwick back and let him let's at least be able to discuss it while we're here today. I mean, he has
So
information.
let me say this in response, and the way I feel about it, while you explain it. I totally understand what we're trying to do. And I totally understand that we got to be physically responsible for the city finances. I totally understand that. But I think that by doing this, this is only going to fragment the real issue. I think we need to come up with a comprehensive plan that will allow for some incentive for our employees upon retirement and or medical retirement, especially on duty. I think that I think it's a bigger issue. Now, I understand that you're a numbers guy, and I understand that we're trying to get our city in financial, physical, shape. I get it. But I think that we need to dig deeper.
I think we've done pretty deep.
Well, if I may start off by saying this is not taking anything away from current employees and the time that they have earned and accrued on our books. So the accrued payout that we have, nothing is being taken away. However, it will mitigate that going forward so that the city can actually afford to pay these payouts going forward. And just so everyone's aware, that liability right now is $5.2 million. Now, that's if everybody leaves today, and everybody's not leaving today, but we owe $5.2 million today. If we do nothing, that's going to continue to go up, so it'll kind of level it out, and then when new employees come on, it'll start to slowly slide. That's what we're trying to do with this ordinance. Employees that are currently eligible for retirement today, that liability is $1.5 million, or an average of about $35,000 per employee. In my opinion, they do have incentive to stay with that payout, and that's not being taken away. As an example as well, one employee, and I'm not singling anybody out, but one employee who has 20 years of service has earned $80,000 worth of time that we will owe when they leave. It's about $4,000 per year that they've been here. Again, we're trying to address this going forward, not punish current employees. Of the accrued time on our books, we have 117,000 hours that we owe all of our employees. That's the equivalent of 56 full-time employees. On average, that's 482 hours per employee that they've earned. That's average, so there are some that have more and probably some that have less. That's 12 weeks per employee. The one thing that's probably been taken away is the perfect attendance day, which I would argue in 12 weeks per employee, that's not a lot of time being taken away. We have to address this problem, and this proposal addresses that.
12 weeks a week.
Mr. President,
Councilor
still
Chevlin.
under discussion.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for clarifying that, because that was the missing link. In the Finance Committee, and this has been an ongoing topic, and we talked about this for years, this unfunded liability. It's not only civilian, but it's also merit officers and fire. And so thank you for clarifying that, because that is an issue, that it doesn't affect existing employees. This is only employees on a go-forward basis. So thank you for clarifying that.
The only, the only issue that I do understand with the employees is that it's going to, if you're a guy that's been here 6 years, you're not going to get to where the guy that's been here 25 years is at currently now. But unfortunately, for the city, we just, in my opinion, we just cannot afford those sorts of unfunded liabilities. It affects forecasting of budgets in the future. It's hard to make strategic plans for our city when we have this looming liability that would be growing, and so it would definitely have a direct effect on the citizens of the city. If talking to Mr. Fenwick, if a few folks if more people did retire unanticipated, it could lead to potentially layoffs. It could indefinitely lead to us not being able to replace that person for, a year. I mean, this is a grave and serious concern that I feel like needs to be addressed now to get our city moving forward on the right path.
And if I could add to that, I think my biggest concern are the employees that are currently eligible for retirement. If we have 2 or 3 retire in 1 year, it's probably our best case scenario is we cannot fill those positions for that year. We would be waiting until the following budget year. If we get more than that, we have bigger problems. And we have roughly 40 employees that at least have greater than 20 years of service. So there's a real risk that we have. We're trying to take steps right now to address that for down the road by establishing this trust fund and begin funding that. But we can't do that all in 1 year, so that's going to take some time. But like I said, those benefits that accrued time that those employees have earned is not being taken away. And quite frankly, I'd argue it legally cannot be taken away. So this time is their time, but we have to begin addressing how we're going to protect the city from this risk in the future.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, there's a motion on the floor by Councilor Giles, second by Councilor Chavis. Am I correct? Or it was Councilor Chavis. Any further discussion? All in favor by a show of hands for proposal number 18? All opposed?
Wait, Chevlot, he was in favor.
Favor, right. All opposed? Proposal number 18 failed. Proposal number 19, 2017.
Proposal number 19, 2017, introduced by Councilor Giles, a proposal for an ordinance transferring unused and unencumbered tax levy funds to the general fund.
There a motion on the floor for proposal number 19
I'd like to make a motion for approval.
for Councilor Giles for approval. Second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Chevlot. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilor Wells?
I'd like to embellish on a question that I asked in the Finance Committee about this, because it says And I asked Mr. Fenwick about this, that it could be transferred to the general fund or the rainy day fund. He said this money is going to be put into a trust. Is that correct? Why would it not say that it's going to be put into a trust in this proposal?
I think as we discussed in the finance meeting, the statute allows for it to be transferred to either the general fund or the rainy day fund. What it is done with then is subject to appropriation, and the appropriation for the transfer to the trust is in the budget.
So basically, it's just the decision of the administration that it be put into the trust. Would that be correct?
Well, again, we can address liabilities or not, but yes, we made the decision that that's the best use of those funds is to begin addressing a pretty serious liability that we have on our books. So yes, the decision was made to put it into the trust fund.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Fenwick, I'm sorry, Mr. President. I just want to make sure for people are clear, so, as kind of ask us, is it true that once the money goes into the trust, it can only be used for those payout liabilities?
Correct.
So this way, it's setting some procedures in place that protects, because if it sits in the general fund, then any future administrations or whatever it could get sucked up in another way.
That's correct.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay, all right. There is a motion on the floor by Councilor Giles, second by Councilor Chevlot for approval for proposal number 19. All in favor by a show of hands? All opposed?
That's ridiculous.
Chevlot, who was in favor again?
Who's all in favor again?
Wait a minute, we're doing this again?
No. She just
This
gave
is
it for her
19.
records. For
19.
proposal number 19.
19, you're looking for in favor?
Yes. She's just getting her notes together, that's all.
Okay.
So it's 4 in favor.
All opposed? And I'm going to abstain. So motion carries for proposal number 19.
Well, no, it's supposed to be 5.
Okay, so a majority of those present, so we have 8 present, and the majority would be 5, okay. So where we at?
Fails,
So proposal number 19 fails.
right?
Are we clear? All right. All right, new business. No new business. And comments of administration.
Thank you. Just for clarification here, proposal number 19, must be transferred to general fund by law. It's not an option for us not to transfer those funds. So hopefully you'll reconsider that when you go to vote that. The second thing I want to say is there was an awful lot of what's becoming very frustrating of really misinformation, disinformation that went out about Proposal 18. And certainly part of that may be on the shoulders of the administration. Part of it are on those who misread or didn't read or began to spread rumors about what we were trying to do. And there was this whole idea of us trying to take all these things away from current employees. That was not in any way ever the intent of this administration. Now, granted, we are now encountering the realities of this kind of traditional city of Lawrence kicking the can down the road. Instead of raises, we'll give you additional benefits, additional days off, additional time, additional comp, et cetera, et cetera. And that's all well and good until it's not. Because people, it will not be good at some point. Look at Detroit, look at the state of Illinois, and look what can happen to you if you don't understand that this unfunded liability is a real thing. Now, mayors in the past have had the pleasure, I will say pleasure because I'm in that position right now, of being able to just keep passing things along. Let somebody else worry about it. Let some other administration bear the brunt of what's going to happen, and then those employees who retire expecting a pension will then find out, sadly, it's not there. It isn't there. We can't just create money. We're not allowed to print money in the city of Lawrence. So we've got to become responsible enough to realize that this effort on the part of us, it's not something that, boy, it'd be great just to sit around in our offices all day and do nothing and not worry about what may happen in the next year or two. But I have to applaud those counselors who take it on under their wing to understand, read, and propose and promote the idea behind trying to solve the problem. But it really angers me when we have people go out among our workers and say, we're taking things away from you. You're going to lose it all. They weren't going to lose anything. And that was never, ever our intent. So those of you who are guilty of that, please be aware that it has consequences. And who will pay for those consequences, I don't know. Yes, it depends upon how long I'm around and how long you're around. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or concerns by any counselors at this
Is
moment?
this an open?
This is an opening.
I just want to, for a point of order, clarification, because 18 and 19 were voted down, that means the whole budget has to be rewritten, because the budget that is proposed in the Finance Committee was all built on all of this, as is the public hearing. So I just believe I'm correct, that because of these two failing, those were part of the overall budget. So now the overall budget now has to change. And we're on a timeline as mandated by the Department of Local Government and Finance. So I just wanted to get that out there because this has happened before, 3-4 years ago. And there we were on the day that we had to propose it, and it was a 4-hour meeting, and we finally got it through. But I just want to remind those that I think I was correct, that because of those two not being passed, then 14, 15, 16, and 17 all will have to be amended.
Okay.
Since we got it open too, I think that it's only fair that people know that those who voted against proposal number 16 voted against their raise. So on one side, folks think that they're protecting them, but they just voted against your 3% raise.
Okay.
And I just think that, it's important as people walk out the door and start to talking, that they understand what all these things really, truly mean. And I would love to encourage folks to come to the finance meeting in the future where you can really get your answers and stuff and questions and stuff answered thoroughly.
Any other counselor at this time?
Mr. President,
This up.
Oh.
Thank you for opening this up. It's not
Yeah.
on the agenda. You don't have to, but I appreciate the comment.
Yeah, well, we made some modifications to,
Thank you.
Mr. All right.
would 15 will be discussed on what date?
October 2nd.
October 2nd. Yeah.
2nd?
Yes, sir.
And that would be at the finance meeting? That'd be full council?
No, it's a regular scheduled meeting. It's a public hearing.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Let me say this. Mayor, I understand your frustration. I get it. I understand that you want to put the city and get the city in the right direction. I get that as well. But I also believe that you and the rest of your administration have the opportunity to spread the word, if you will, to the employees so that they can have a clear understanding of what is about what you're trying to do. I think by the time we get this information, and that's questionable at best, we have a limited amount of time to go through all of these articles to make sure that we're making the best decision possible. So as we go forward, I encourage, when there are significant changes need to be made, that we educate our employees so that so rumors won't spread, i.e., get with the unions from the police, fire, and matter of fact, the city employees that are not represented by a union, they need to be included in the discussion. So whatever happened, which I'm not aware of about any of that, talk, I just think that we just need to educate our people. We have optimal time to do it while you guys are here every day. Anything else?
Mr. President,
Council Wells?
real quick question. I don't know the parameters of the law, but are these proposals are public, are they not? I mean, everyone is privy to them prior to, because I asked a couple of different city employees, what their opinion was, and they said they hadn't gotten it or hadn't seen 16 and I think 18. So, because I know these things affect these people, and I think that the people that it affects, I think that their opinion should count. But I was just curious as to why, maybe they just hadn't bothered to actually look for it. But I thought that it was available to them, so,
Yeah.
okay, that answers my
President,
question.
they were available.
Okay,
They were all available to the public. They were posted online. They were available at the Finance Committee meeting. They were on the back table. They were available.
All right, thank
We
you.
I'm
we
just
all
saying-
had them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just encouraging more talk when this.
No, I understand. I was more,
yeah.
Counselor Wells were they available? They were available publicly. These were public documents, yeah.
Mr. President,
Councilor Wheeler.
I would like to make one comment. Whatever the outcome of these votes are tonight, the sky is not falling down. We're still able to have a special council meetings if these ordinances are brought back to us with edits that are done by the committeemen or even the administration. In addition, we can also suspend the rules at our next meeting to get whatever is presented in front of us passed. So the sky is not necessarily falling down. We're not going to get the budget in time and ask for extensions. I feel like that's a little extreme.
Yep.
So I wanted to make sure everyone knows that there are options so we can keep the city moving forward and on time and on budget.
Yeah,
Thank you.
appreciate the comments.
Welcome.
Anything else? We are adjourned.